Hi Reddit, I'm 25F and I live alone in a small apartment just outside a mid-sized city. I work weird hours, third shift most of the week, so I'm used to being asleep during the day and awake when most people are winding down. It's not glamorous, but it's my routine. Last month, something happened that I still can't wrap my head around. At first, I chalked it up to paranoia, stress, or lack of sleep. But the more I think about it, the more it seems deliberate, and worse, like someone close to me might have been involved. This all started on a Tuesday, after one of the worst nights I'd had in a while at work. I came home around 7 a.m., showered, scarfed down some instant noodles, and collapsed into bed. I usually lock my door immediately, but I remember that morning I double-checked it, deadbolt and all, because of something I'd seen the night before. That something was a guy I recognized from earlier that month. I'd caught him staring at me at the 24-hour convenience store near my place. The kind of stare that feels too long, too intentional. He didn't say anything, just stood near the back, watching while I paid for my snacks. I left fast, made sure I wasn't followed, and didn't think much more of it, until a week later, when I saw him again. This time, on my street. And then again, outside my building. I told myself it was coincidence. That it had to be. But still, I started locking everything twice. I kept pepper spray next to my keys. I even ordered a door wedge alarm, though it hadn't arrived yet. Anyway, back to that Tuesday. I fell asleep sometime after 8 a.m., and the next thing I remember was waking up wrong. Not scared, not startled, just off. Like my body knew something was weird before my brain did. I looked around my bedroom. Everything looked the same. Nothing had been moved. No broken glass. No open windows. But my front door? It was unlocked. Not just the knob, the deadbolt too. My first instinct was to panic, and I did. I ran through the apartment in my pajamas, heart pounding, checking every closet and corner with my phone flashlight. Nothing was missing. Nothing was broken. And yet, the door was unlocked. And I know, I locked it. My hands were still shaking when I called the only person I could think of who had a key to my place, my sister, Lena. She's 23, bubbly, and always the first to jump in with a "you're overthinking it," whenever I get even slightly anxious. She laughed when I told her the door was unlocked and said I probably dreamed locking it. She said she hadn't been by that day, that I should try sleeping like a normal person because my schedule was making me paranoid. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. But then she added one more thing. She said she had stopped by the day before, just to drop off a jacket she borrowed. She didn't want to wake me, so she just let herself in and left it on the chair near the entryway. "You were totally passed out," she said. Red flag. Because the jacket? It wasn't there. And that meant someone had moved it. Or taken it. Or maybe, she hadn't been alone. So after I hung up with Lena, I tried to convince myself that maybe I was just being dramatic. Maybe she had left the jacket and I'd somehow moved it half asleep and forgotten. I searched the apartment again, calmer this time. I checked the chair by the door, the coat rack, even the laundry hamper. Nothing. The jacket was gone. And that might not sound like a huge deal to most people, but for me, it felt like confirmation. Because I remember that chair being empty. And more importantly, Lena had no reason to lie. Unless she wasn't telling the full truth. I texted her, "What jacket did you drop off? Can you describe it?" She replied almost instantly. Said it was her red puffer jacket, the one with the silver zipper. Claimed she'd folded it neatly and left it on the chair around 11 a.m. the day before. That text made my blood run cold. Because I'd been home at that time. Asleep, sure, but not dead to the world. And my bedroom is right off the hallway. You can't come in without me at least hearing the door open. Except I hadn't heard a thing. And I didn't sleep through sounds. I was a light sleeper, occupational hazard from working nights and living alone. A creak, a neighbor slamming their door, even the hum of the fridge would sometimes wake me. Yet apparently, someone entered my apartment in the middle of the morning and I heard nothing. That's when I started thinking something I didn't want to believe. What if Lena wasn't alone when she came over? What if she let someone in with her? Or worse, what if she gave someone my key? Now, I know how that sounds. It's not like Lena and I had some dramatic falling out or anything. We're not super close, but we see each other a couple times a month. She's the kind of person who posts everything on social media, lives for brunches and late-night FaceTimes with friends. And yes, she's a little impulsive, sometimes careless, but not malicious. Still, she used to date a guy who gave me major creep vibes. Someone who once made a joke about my night shift lifestyle being perfect for surprise visits. I never laughed. Lena broke up with him months ago, or so I thought. I couldn't stop thinking about him now. I sat in my locked apartment, suddenly not sure who had been inside while I slept. And even worse, not sure who might have seen me sleeping. Because just as I was about to call Lena again, I noticed something I had missed the first time I checked the living room. A glass. A glass I didn't use, sitting by the sink, like someone had poured themselves water and didn't bother cleaning up. And that's when the fear shifted. From what if, to who? I stood there for way too long, just staring at that glass like it might explain itself. It wasn't mine. I hadn't used it. I always drink from a blue tumbler when I get home from work. It's bigger and keeps water cold longer. This one was different. A plain clear glass from the back of the cupboard, the kind I almost never use. It was wet inside. Like someone had just used it that morning. I didn't touch it. I didn't want to. I didn't want to smudge it in case I had to. I don't know, do something official. But then I realized I'd already touched the sink earlier when I washed out my bowl. There was no way to know if I'd already contaminated the scene. The scene. God. Was I really thinking of my own apartment that way? My heart was thumping, my fingers buzzing with nerves. I started checking the windows, even though we're on the third floor and none of them showed signs of being opened. I looked for scuff marks, scratches on the door, anything, anything that would make this make sense. Nothing. The lock hadn't been broken. The windows were locked, and there were no signs of forced entry. Someone had been let in. Or had a key. I sat down on the couch, trying not to hyperventilate. That was when something hit me hard. I got up, went into the hallway closet, and pulled out the small safe I kept tucked behind a stack of shoeboxes. It wasn't high-tech, just one of those small fireproof boxes with a combo lock. Inside it was a few hundred in emergency cash, my passport, an old external hard drive, and a flash drive. Except now, the flash drive was gone. And that was the one thing no one else even knew about. Not Lena. Not my parents. Not even my ex. It had personal stuff on it, nothing criminal or sketchy, but enough to make my stomach sink thinking about someone snooping through it. Pictures, old journals, scans of medical records, voice memos from therapy. Things I'd saved for future reference. Stuff that felt safe only because I knew it was locked away. Gone. I slammed the safe shut and stood there in the closet, suddenly feeling exposed. Not just physically, but emotionally violated. Whoever was in here didn't just want to rob me. They were looking for something specific, something about me. And if it wasn't Lena, then someone she trusted had access. Or worse, someone who was watching me had figured out when she'd be by. There was a shadow to this whole thing now. Not just a mistake or a forgotten door. This wasn't forgetfulness. It felt targeted. Calculated. I picked up my phone to call Lena again, and that's when I saw it. A text. From a number I didn't recognize. Red looks better on you than on her. I dropped the phone. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone a second time trying to unlock it. The message was still there, taunting me in perfect, horrifying clarity. Red looks better on you than on her. No name. Just a random number. Area code I didn't recognize. My first thought was spam, some sick joke, but the timing was too perfect. That message came in less than a minute after I opened the safe. Like they knew I'd noticed. Like they were watching. And the worst part? I was wearing red. A red t-shirt I'd thrown on after my shower that morning. An old one from college. I hadn't worn it in weeks. Someone saw me. I tried to stay calm, telling myself there were 100 logical explanations. Maybe Lena took a picture of me when she came over and sent it to someone. Maybe it was just coincidence. Maybe the universe had twisted sense of humor and I was losing my mind. But the sinking feeling in my chest said otherwise. I called Lena again. Straight to voicemail. I called her twice more. Nothing. And that's when it really hit me, I didn't know where Lena was. She wasn't at work, she'd said in her last text she had the day off. She wasn't responding to calls. She had a key to my place. She claimed she dropped off a jacket that was now missing. And now I was getting threatening texts from someone talking about what I was wearing. I wanted to throw up. I paced around the apartment, trying to remember anything that might connect. Something I missed. That's when I remembered. Lena had posted a selfie the night before. I'd glanced at it quickly while scrolling half asleep, didn't even like it. I opened her page again, went back. There it was. A mirror pic in her bedroom. She was wearing the red puffer jacket. The one she supposedly dropped off at my place the next morning. My heart just about stopped. That photo had been posted at 10:37 p.m. The caption was some dumb quote about cozy nights and chaos, followed by a fire emoji. But all I could think about was the timestamp. She had the jacket last night. So why lie about dropping it off the next morning? I stared at the photo, at the background. Nothing unusual. Same bedroom as always, makeup scattered on her dresser, blinds halfway shut. But something in the reflection caught my eye. The mirror behind her didn't just show the room, it caught the open door. And through that open door? A man's shoe. Barely visible. But unmistakable. A black sneaker. Not Lena's. Someone was in her room when she took the photo. Or at least, standing just outside of it. I zoomed in on the shoe. It wasn't much to go on, but it was definitely a man's. Bigger than Lena's feet, and not a style she'd wear. Black, worn, with a white rubber sole. Almost like a work sneaker. I stared at the photo until my eyes hurt, trying to see more. Anything that might identify who it was. A shadow, a pant leg, a hand, nothing. Just the toe of a shoe and the bottom of the doorframe. But it was enough. She wasn't alone. And she'd lied about that jacket. Lied about when she came over. Lied about being the only one in my apartment. I tried calling her again. This time, her phone rang once before going to voicemail. Someone declined it. I grabbed my bag, slipped on sneakers, and left the apartment without even locking the door. I didn't care. I just needed answers. Lena lived only 10 minutes away. Normally I'd call first, but not this time. I needed to catch her off guard. The whole ride over, my mind was racing. What if she was in trouble? What if she wasn't lying? What if she was being forced to lie? What if whoever had been in my apartment was with her now? By the time I pulled up to her building, I was drenched in sweat, but it wasn't from the heat. I climbed the stairs 2 at a time and pounded on her door. No answer. I knocked again, harder. Still nothing. I was about to call her landlord when I heard it, something inside. A shuffle. Then silence. I knocked again, quieter this time. Almost pleading. Finally, the door opened. It was Lena. She looked fine. Confused, maybe a little annoyed, like I'd interrupted a nap. No makeup, hair in a bun, hoodie half-zipped. But something was off. She was holding her phone. And her hand was shaking. I asked her if she was okay. She nodded too quickly. I asked if she dropped off the jacket yesterday. She said yes, same story as before. I told her I saw the selfie, knew she still had it the night before. She blinked. Once. Then said she forgot to take it with her that morning and brought it over later. Lied. Again. That's when I asked her straight up. Lena, who was in your room when you took that photo? She froze. Didn't speak. Didn't blink. Her face went pale like someone had pulled the blood right out of her. And then? She slammed the door in my face. I stood there for a second, stunned. The door had literally hit my shoulder on the way out, like she couldn't get it shut fast enough. My first instinct was to pound on it again, demand answers, but something stopped me. Not fear exactly, more like instinct. A sharp voice in my head whispering, "Don't push her now." So I stood there, silent, listening. I didn't hear footsteps or her locking the door. What I heard instead, just barely, was her voice. Low, frantic, like she was whisper yelling. And then another voice. A man's. Deeper. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but the rhythm was unmistakable. She was panicking. He was trying to calm her down. I backed away from the door slowly and pulled out my phone. No more guessing. No more hoping she'd tell the truth. I opened the recording app and hit record. I held the phone near the door, not daring to breathe too loudly. It picked up pieces. Muffled and broken, but enough. Her voice, "She knows. I told you she was going to figure it out." His, "Relax. She doesn't know everything." Her again, "You said it would be quick. You said she wouldn't even notice." Then a long pause. Some shuffling. A thump. Then him, "I told you I was just looking. You're the one who let me in." That was it. I pulled the phone away, stopped the recording, and walked down the hall like a robot. Got in my car. Sat there with my heart in my throat. My sister had let someone into my apartment. Someone she knew. Someone who knew me. And she hadn't just lied to cover it up, she had protected him. Even after I told her about the unlocked door. The missing flash drive. The threatening message. She knew. And worse, she'd been involved. I sat in the car, trying to catch my breath, when my phone buzzed again. Another message. Same number. "You shouldn't have come here." I looked up at Lena's window. The curtain shifted. Someone was watching. The curtain barely moved, just a ripple, a shadow, but I saw it. Someone was at the window, watching me. Watching to see what I'd do now that I knew. I didn't flinch. Didn't look away. Just sat there in the car, phone clenched in my fist, replaying that last text over and over again in my mind. "You shouldn't have come here." I snapped a photo of Lena's window. Proof. I didn't know what I was going to do with it yet, but every instinct told me I'd need it soon. For a second, I considered calling the police, telling them everything. But what would I say? That my sister might have let a stalker into my apartment? That I had a glass by the sink and a weird text as evidence? They'd ask why I didn't call sooner. Why I hadn't filed a report the first time I saw the guy outside the store. Why I didn't press charges when I realized something was stolen. I didn't want to give them any reason to dismiss me. So I did the next best thing. I drove straight to a friend's place across town, someone I trusted completely, someone Lena didn't even know. I needed space, distance, time to think without feeling eyes on me. When I got there, I showed her the texts, the photo of the glass, the missing flash drive, and finally, the recording. She didn't say anything for a minute, just sat back, wide-eyed. Then she asked if I had a place to stay, somewhere safe. I told her I didn't, so she said I could stay there for a few nights. Then she asked something I hadn't thought about. What exactly was on that flash drive? I froze, because suddenly I couldn't remember every single file. I'd backed it up months ago, used it to transfer a bunch of personal stuff when I was switching laptops, and then I just left it in the safe. It had everything. My journals. Audio memos from therapy. My resume. Tax records. But also, photos. Old ones. Private ones. Screenshots of DMs I'd saved from years ago. Including messages from a guy I blocked in college after he started getting obsessive. The same guy Lena once briefly dated. The same guy she swore she hadn't spoken to since. My blood ran cold. What if it was him? What if he had been the one Lena let in? What if this wasn't random at all? I picked up my phone, opened Instagram, and typed in his name. Nothing. But when I searched my blocked list, he was gone. Unblocked. The second I saw his name missing from my blocked list, my stomach dropped. I hadn't unblocked him. I wouldn't have. I'd blocked him over 3 years ago after he started blowing up my DMs with cryptic messages, selfies he took outside my job, and worst of all, a photo of my apartment door. Back then, I told Lena. She said all the right things, how creepy it was, how I needed to block him and report the account, how she hadn't talked to him in forever. She even offered to warn him off, saying he might still listen to her. But what if she never stopped talking to him? What if she never actually meant to protect me? I sat on the edge of my friend's couch, heart racing. I couldn't breathe. I needed confirmation. I opened the recording again, the one from outside Lena's door, and listened closely this time. Slower. More intentionally. The man's voice. I'd heard it before. It was deeper than I remembered, more careful, but there was a rhythm to it. A smug tone. He didn't sound afraid. He sounded in control. And then I realized what scared me most. He didn't sound like someone who snuck in. He sounded like someone who belonged there. Like someone Lena had been seeing, regularly. It made sense now. The reason she didn't answer when I called. The panic when I brought up the jacket. The slammed door. She wasn't just protecting someone. She was with him. I went back to her selfie. Looked again at the room. Then zoomed in, not on the shoe, but on the dresser. There was a watch lying next to her perfume. A men's watch. Black leather. Silver face. Way too big to be hers. And I remembered it immediately. Because he used to wear it in every single photo he posted back when he was trying to get my attention. It was his signature look. He was there. He was the one in my apartment. And now he had the flash drive. He had my files. My therapy recordings. He knew things about me I'd buried years ago. But he didn't want to just watch me anymore. He wanted me to know he'd been there. I barely slept that night. Every creak in my friend's apartment made me flinch. Every buzz from my phone sent my heart into my throat. But there were no more messages. No new threats. Just silence. Which somehow felt worse. The next morning, I finally got a text from Lena. Just one line. We need to talk. Alone. I stared at it for a long time. My first instinct was to delete it and move on. But I couldn't. Not yet. I needed to hear it from her. I needed her to say it out loud, to stop pretending, stop lying, and admit what she'd done. So I agreed. We met at a diner halfway between our apartments. Public place. Crowded. Safe. She walked in wearing sunglasses, like she was hiding. Sat down across from me without saying a word at first. Then finally, she spoke. She looked destroyed. Tired. Guilty. Scared. And the first thing she said was, I didn't know he'd go that far. I didn't say anything. I just waited. She started rambling, fast, like it was all spilling out after being buried too long. She told me she reconnected with him, Tom, about 6 months ago. Said he'd messaged her out of nowhere, apologized for being a creep back in college, said he'd changed. She believed him. They started talking. Then seeing each other. Then he started asking questions about me. She told him we weren't close. That we barely talked. That I was kind of cold. She said it like she was trying to justify it, like making me sound distant made it less horrible. She didn't know about the flash drive at first, but when he came to her apartment and saw her using my spare key, when she told him she stopped by my place sometimes when I was asleep, his whole demeanor changed. He wanted in. Not to rob me. Not to hurt me, she swore. Just to understand me. That was the word she kept repeating. Understand. But he took the drive. And then he sent the messages. And Lena? She didn't stop him. Because she was scared. Because by the time she realized how obsessed he still was with me, it was too late. She said she thought if she kept him calm, distracted, with her, he'd stay away from me. But she let him into my home. She stood by while he walked through my private life like it was his to explore. And when I asked her the one question I came for, why, she just looked at me and whispered. Because he made me feel like someone. That broke me in a way I didn't expect. Not because I pitied her, but because that was all it took. All it took to betray me was one guy with a smooth voice and a fragile ego. One man who wanted control. One sister too weak to say no. I stood up, tossed a $10 on the table, walked out without looking back, because the thing I'd been fearing for weeks had already happened. I wasn't being paranoid. I had been watched, followed, violated, by someone who wanted me, and someone who let him in. I didn't go home after the diner. I didn't even tell my friend I was leaving. Instead, I drove straight to the police station. I walked in, calm but cold, like I was wearing armor that had formed over the past few days. I told them everything, starting with the break-in, the missing flash drive, the messages, and then the recording. I played it for them right there, in the small gray room with the flickering light overhead. They took it seriously. More seriously than I expected, honestly. Probably because I had dates, times, a name, a voice, screenshots, photos, and Lena's name, too. Her involvement, her silence, her protection of someone dangerous. They asked if I felt safe. I laughed. That's when I handed over the spare key Lena had returned to me months ago, still sealed in the little manila envelope she'd left on my birthday. Except now, I knew she hadn't returned anything. The key in that envelope was a decoy. A blank. She'd kept the real one. They asked if I wanted to press charges. I said yes, for the trespassing, the theft, the stalking, the emotional damage. For everything. It took 2 days for them to find him. Tom. He'd been staying in a short-term rental a few blocks from Lena's place. They found my flash drive in his backpack. And in his apartment, photos of me. Printed. Annotated. Some of them were old. From college. Some I didn't even know existed. Screenshots from my deleted social media. Surveillance-style shots of me walking home from work. One photo, this one recent, was of me asleep in my bed. Taken from the hallway. Taken from inside my apartment. They arrested him on the spot. He's being held without bail. There's an investigation. Lena's being questioned. I don't know if she'll be charged yet, but I gave the police everything I had. The texts. The timeline. The fact that she admitted, out loud, that she let him in. I haven't spoken to her since. I don't think I ever will again. As for me? I moved. I didn't take a single box from that old apartment. Just my wallet, my phone, and a new set of keys. Different city. Different locks. Different life. I still wake up sometimes, convinced someone's watching. Sometimes I still see that text in my mind, red looks better on you. But I'm healing. Slowly. And I've learned something I'll never forget. The scariest monsters aren't strangers. They're the ones who already have a key.